What's up guys, and welcome to round number 17 of my 2019 F1 modded career mode, here today for the Japanese Grand Prix at the famous Suzuka circuit. Over the years it's seen plenty of great F1 races. Hopefully we can see the same in this series today. Leave a like down below if you're still enjoying this series. We're very much in the home stretch now, 5 rounds to go, and we're actually still in with a shot of the Drivers' Championship, would you believe. Now unfortunately we have no new upgrades this weekend, and that means that we slip back behind Red Bull in the performance chart. But just look how close it is, from Ferrari all the way down to Renault in 4th. It's going to be a very good battle, and the same goes for the rest of the field as well. Haas all the way down to Williams is looking very tight. Now, as I mentioned, no new upgrades for this round, but next time out, for the United States Grand Prix, hopefully we should have 2 new upgrades on the car. A powertrain upgrade and a chassis upgrade, and both of them, one major, one minor. So yeah, that should do us very well in the performance chart. Now, despite being the 4th quickest car on the grid, it was a Renault front row lockout. Ricciardo outdoing myself, but we can't complain at that. Second on the grid, slotted in behind our teammate, ahead of Pierre Gasly and Sebastian Vettel, with the 2 Mercedes cars down in 5th and 6th. It's been a torrid few rounds for them in qualifying. Max Verstappen as well struggling down in 7th place, ahead of Lando Norris, Sergio Perez and Kevin Magnussen. And then, all the way down, one driver you haven't seen yet is the man in 15th place, Charles Leclerc. He's taken a 10-place grid penalty. Despite putting in a very good qualifying result, he's going to be starting far down. And the same goes for Carlos Sainz and Alexander Albon, who have also taken penalties. Now, before we get into the formation lap, a quick look at the race strategy. You can see it's going to be a 2-stopper by the looks of it today. We've been given the choice between a 2 and a 3-stopper. Of course, we're going to go for the 2-stopper. I reckon we can pull it off. 2 stints on the softest compound available to us, which is the super soft tyre, and then 1 stint on the soft tyre, which is pretty much half of the Grand Prix. So we've got 27 laps ahead of us today, and here we go then on to the formation lap. And what a sight that is to behold. 2 yellow cars right at the front end of the grid, locking out the front row for the 2nd time this season. Of course, we did so back in Hungary. But taking a quick look then at the driver's standings going into this round, I mentioned right at the start of the video that we are mathematically still within a shout of the Drivers' Championship, but right at the top between Vettel, Hamilton and Bottas, it's incredibly tight, and we are going to go to battle once more here at Suzuka as we go to the 5 red lights now. And away we go. We were held for a very long time there, and it's a pretty poor start from us. A lot of wheel spin off the line, and we're going to be very vulnerable into turn 1 because Pierre Gasly is going to go all the way around the outside. Lewis Hamilton also taking a look. What a start it's been from him. Although he has to get out of the move, and he's now back behind Sebastian Vettel. But what a start that was to the Grand Prix. Everybody looking very aggressive into the first corner, and as we now go through the snake section and into the Dunlop curve, we're having to settle into P3 due to being overtaken by Gasly, and he is looking like he's going to try and line up a move on our teammate Daniel Ricciardo as we're now through the first sector, followed closely by Sebastian Vettel in that Ferrari car, which is on paper the quickest car on the grid at the moment. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see whether Vettel's race pace is better than ourselves in this Renault car. But one man who's looking as if he does have good race pace early on is Pierre Gasly, because he's still just sticking to the tail of our teammate. We're in overtake ERS, and we can't keep up with that Red Bull driver. But now as we go through the famous spoon curve and on the run up to 130R, can we get a good exit off here? It's relatively decent, but we're still losing time to Pierre Gasly, and we've got Sebastian Vettel to worry about. Meanwhile, Gasly's going to try and go for a move on our teammate into 130R. There's a bit of contact between the two of them, but I think Gasly is going to get the move done as they go now into the Casio triangle at the final corner, and he has managed to get the move done. Pierre Gasly, who has taken back-to-back race wins in the last 2 races, is now leading here in Japan. Meanwhile, we've got Sebastian Vettel trying to take P3 off ourselves, and he's gone for the move into the first corner, and he's gone very wide there, but he does manage to make the move stick. So a very poor lap for us two Renault drivers. Lap 1 has been a pretty torrid one. We both lost positions, myself 2 positions and Ricciardo 1. But now we're trying to get back at Sebastian Vettel, who's looking very slow on the run-up to the Dunlop curve, which we're now going through. And on the run-up to the Dageners, Vettel just settling in behind. So now we've just about managed to catch our breath. We're going to take a look at the replay of the start. So Gasly took a very interesting line there into the first corner. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton tried to go around our outside and then gets overtaken by Sebastian Vettel on just before the snake section starts. So an interesting first corner. It was pretty much carnage. Everybody trying to use the same piece of road, which so often happens here at the Suzuka circuit. But now we're going back on board on lap 2 of this Grand Prix, and we're diving down the inside of Sebastian Vettel into the hairpin. Daniel Ricciardo locked up into there, and we nearly went into our teammate, who's very, very slow now, off the hairpin. So as we go into 200R and on the run up to Spoon Curve, are we going to take a look at our teammate, or are we going to save it until the end of the lap? No, we're just going to settle in behind for the moment. It would have been very, very risky to go for a move on our teammate into Spoon Curve. But now as we look behind, there's a big battle going on for P5 between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, and now they're both going to try and go for a move on Sebastian Vettel into 130R, and he's gone round the outside as Max Verstappen straight into Lewis Hamilton, and Lewis Hamilton is out of this Grand Prix. That's going to dent his championship chances, and we now have a safety car on lap 2 of the Grand Prix. What a start it's been to this Japanese Grand Prix, and the race leader, Pierre Gasly, has come into the pit lane. We're only at the start of lap 3 and he's already come in. That's an interesting strategy choice as we go on to this safety car stint now. And that means that myself and Daniel Ricciardo are back in 1st and 2nd position. Would you believe it? We were in 2nd and 4th just a lap ago. And now we're going to take a look at a replay of exactly what happened to Lewis Hamilton. So he tried to take a look down the inside of Vettel, and then Verstappen goes charging around his outside, clips his right front wheel. And now we're going to take a look at it from Verstappen's point of view. So he just tries to go right around the outside and catches his rear left tyre on Hamilton's front right. And that was a bit of an interesting incident. So let me know, guys, down in the comments what you think of that incident. Should Verstappen have been penalised? Was it Hamilton's fault? Do let me know. I'd like to hear what you think. But we're going to take a look at the running order now under the safety car. So as I mentioned, it is a Renault 1-2 currently. Myself in behind Daniel Ricciardo. And Sebastian Vettel there, sat in P3. Of course, we know that Vettel is very quick in a straight line on this circuit. And then we've got Max Verstappen, the man that caused that safety car incident, in P4 ahead of Valtteri Bottas, one of the men that's in with a chance of this championship. Then we've got Lando Norris, who once again is putting in a pretty decent performance here. And we have to go all the way back to 19th place to find Pierre Gasly. He was leading the race. He's now in last position, but of course he has made one of his 2 stops this afternoon. You'd imagine as he's gone onto the soft tyres, he will be making another stop before the end of this Grand Prix. But now at the end of lap 4, it was a pretty short safety car stint because the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap, and Ricciardo's now managed to get a little bit of a gap in front of us. There's nothing that we could have done about it. The AI was pretty much controlling our car there, and it's been a very, very poor restart from ourselves. Like I say, nothing we could have done about that, and it's really frustrating because now Sebastian Vettel is going to go down our inside, and you'd imagine he'll make the move stick just like he did at the start of the Grand Prix. No, he runs wide, and we get back inside of him, and we are still ahead of Sebastian Vettel, but that was a bit of a shaky safety car restart. I was really frustrated at the time in this race because, like I say, there was nothing I could do about falling so far behind Daniel Ricciardo on the restart. The game just literally would not let me go any faster. But fortunately, we have caught back up to Ricciardo, and we're purple through the first sector. So we had a very good run through that snaking section of corners. And now on the run up to the hairpin on lap 5, we're just too far back from Daniel Ricciardo. But showing that these 2 Renault cars very much do have the pace to be leading this Grand Prix. And as we now end lap 5 and start lap 6, we are within a second, nearly half a second, of our teammate. But once again, Sebastian Vettel showing how much power he has in that Ferrari engine in a straight line. But he runs deep once again, and it's a big, big lock-up and he cuts in front of Max Verstappen and stays in P3. So fortunately, Sebastian Vettel just can't brake into that first corner because it really has been our saving grace. This Renault engine is really starting to wear out on our car. It looks as if we may actually have to take another power unit in at the next race in the USA, because I think we're running at about 60% wear. So it's not looking great, but fortunately this Japanese Grand Prix circuit is a lot of corners and not too many straights. So if we can keep Vettel behind us on that pit straight, then, well, it'd be pretty impressive, because I think around the rest of the circuit, we are looking like we are the quickest man, because we're very much keeping pace with our teammate Daniel Ricciardo, and we're now on lap 7, looking towards our first stop of the Grand Prix. In fact, we are scheduled to come in at the end of this lap. So it's going to be a battle with our teammate to see who will come out in the lead after the first set of pit stops. And are we going to now try and move on Daniel Ricciardo into 130R? It'd be a very, very risky one to go for on our teammate. So we're going to stick behind and maybe go down his inside into the Casio triangle now. But no, we don't want to make any contact with Ricciardo. It was very, very tight there. But we are going to peel in to the pit lane despite DRS being active. And we're going to come in for our first stop of the afternoon. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen is going to take a look at Sebastian Vettel. Vettel a long way back from Daniel Ricciardo, and despite Vettel having DRS, it looks as if Verstappen's going to sweep right around the outside, using all of the track and a little bit more. So Verstappen's up into a net P3. Meanwhile, we have come in for our first stop of the afternoon, and you'd imagine that all that battling should do us a bit of good. Lewis Hamilton, of course, out of the Grand Prix, is the only man that's showing behind us on the screen. And that means we are the last man on track at the moment. Alexander Albon in the Toro Rosso is a long way ahead of us. Of course, having that safety car has really, really bunched the field up. But now we go on to the end of lap 8, just half a lap later. And you can see that Max Verstappen, after making a move on Vettel at the start of the lap, has now gone for a move on our teammate Daniel Ricciardo. And Ricciardo's got wing damage from that. And Verstappen is on an absolute crash course at 130R this afternoon. He's taken out Hamilton, and he's now given damage to Daniel Ricciardo, his former teammate. So Ricciardo's coming to the pit lane to probably see to that damage. So he's going to change from the super soft tyres to what compound is it going to be? It's going to be another set of super soft, but he's going to have another front wing on. And that is really going to compromise Ricciardo. You'd imagine he'll now come out behind ourselves. So as we come out of the final corner, we'll see exactly where Ricciardo is going to emerge. So we come past the start-finish line. We are indeed ahead of our teammate Daniel Ricciardo, but by quite a substantial margin as well. So that has really, really cost Ricciardo. You've got to feel for him. He was leading the Grand Prix. How much more bad luck can Ricciardo get this season, honestly? But we're going to skip forward half a lap on lap 9. We've gone purple through sector 2, but there's another safety car deployed. Robert Kubica is stricken across the track, and we'll take a look in a minute exactly what happened. But within 9 laps, we've had 2 safety cars in this race. Would you believe it? We're going to take a look at a replay of exactly what happened. And oh no, it was the 2 Williams cars coming to blows at 130R. Kubica tried to go down the inside. And to be honest, it was only going to end one way. So you can see here, lap 10, the safety car is out. And Lance Stroll, despite being given the go-ahead by the safety car to go past it, is just sticking behind. So you can see on the minimap, the likes of Verstappen, Bottas, Vettel are racing around the circuit trying to get to the pit lane for their stop. Meanwhile, we're stuck behind the safety car. We've finally unleashed, but you can see we've lost 12 seconds on the Delta. That's about over half a pit stop. This is really not going to do us any good. And you'd imagine, as we come to the final corner now, that the likes of Verstappen, Bottas, Vettel, it looks like they're all going to get ahead of us, because they're now emerging from the pit lane. We're stuck behind Antonio Giovinazzi, and yes, you can see there is Lando Norris, who's just behind us. Sergio Perez has even got the jump on us in the pit phase, and what a disastrous time for the safety car to come out. And what on earth was Lance Stroll doing, just sticking behind the safety car? And it looks like that may well have ruined our chances of a victory this afternoon. So we're going to take a look at the running order behind the safety car, and we've got a new leader in the Grand Prix. It's Valtteri Bottas from out of absolutely nowhere. is now leading this Japanese Grand Prix. Just what on earth has happened in that pit phase? He's also on the medium tyres, so he's going to the end of the Grand Prix, and he's leading. Meanwhile, Sebastian Vettel in P2 is on the same strategy as ourselves. He's on the super soft tyres, so he's still got one more stop to make this afternoon. Then in P3 is Max Verstappen, also on the medium tyres, so he doesn't have to stop again in this Grand Prix. We're behind him, and we've still got to stop again, which is a bit of a disaster. Then we've got Sergio Perez, by the looks of it, in P4, ahead of Antonio Giovinazzi, who is just ahead of ourselves. It's not gone well for us, to be honest. We've still got to make another stop, and we've got to overtake cars twice if we want to finish ahead of them. But the safety car is in at the end of lap 11. We're going to go racing once more for the second time this afternoon, and away we go. So we've got a big tank slapper out of that final corner, and once again we just cannot get close to the car ahead. At the safety car restart, Lando Norris is going to try and take a look down our inside, but you'd imagine we'll have the pace in our Renault engine to hold him off. No, Norris is actually almost stuck it down our inside, but we do manage to hold P6. Meanwhile, there's been a real scuffle up ahead, and it looks like Sebastian Vettel has taken the race lead back, or at least taken the advantage back over Valtteri Bottas. We'll take a look at exactly what happened there in a minute, but we're going to sweep round the outside of Antonio Giovinazzi in the snake section. What a move that was from ourselves. Up into P5 in this Grand Prix, and we have really got to get a move on if we want to finish well in this Grand Prix. There's so many cars on one-stoppers, which of course wouldn't have been possible without a safety car. But now we're going to take a look at exactly what happened at the front at the safety car restart. Bottas locked up and ran wide, meaning that Vettel has now taken the lead of the Grand Prix, and Max Verstappen has taken P2. So a disastrous corner there for Valtteri Bottas, but he's still in a good position to at least take P2 in this Grand Prix, you'd imagine. But yeah, we really need to clear these cars if we've got any chance of taking victory this afternoon, and try and get as close to Sebastian Vettel as possible. Meanwhile, Sergio Perez, who is sat in P4, is still ahead of us, and for some reason, we've still got the safety car sign up ahead. The safety car isn't out, and it isn't coming in, it isn't even out. So I don't know what the game is on about, but you didn't worry about that, just pretend that it says it's green flag condition, because it very much is, and we've very much overtaken Sergio Perez at the same location as Antonio Giovinazzi, which brings us up into P4, and we are now behind Valtteri Bottas by about 1.5 seconds here on lap 13 of the Grand Prix. We're not even at half race distance, would you believe? It's been such an exciting Grand Prix so far, and it's very much brewing for a good end to this Grand Prix. And sure enough, by the end of lap 14, we closed right up to the tail of Valtteri Bottas, and we need to overtake him and get some sort of gap if we want to finish ahead of him this afternoon. So we now get on the DRS. We've gone purple on lap 14. It's the quickest lap of this Japanese Grand Prix so far, and we're going to try and go all the way around the outside of Valtteri Bottas. But no, we sort of tricked Bottas into running wide, and we've got the sort of cut back under on Valtteri Bottas, whatever you call that move. We've just done it. I've called it the cut back under. I don't think anybody has ever called that in the history of F1. But here we are in P3, and now not far behind Max Verstappen, who has got Sebastian Vettel for company, also on the super soft tyres. And we've gone purple through Sector 1. We are really in the groove with this racetrack now. Suzuka is very much one of those circuits where if you nail a lap, it feels incredible, and that is very much what we're doing at the moment, and that's what Max Verstappen's trying to do. He's gone for another audacious move at 130R himself, and Sebastian Vettel battling it out here at the Casio Triangle, and they're going to go side by side as we go over the line, and it looks as if Sebastian Vettel has just about held position. Verstappen's going to try and go around the outside, but no, Vettel pulls over to the outside of the track and is going to hold P1 for the meantime, but that has really helped us, because we are up on the tail of Max Verstappen now, and we've actually gone into low ERS deployment, because in this Sector 1, I just feel like we can save so much energy, which we can then use on the straight, but we kind of try and go around the outside of Verstappen. It doesn't quite work. That Red Bull a little bit more planted than the likes of the Alfa Romeo that we've made the overtake on before. But still, we're in a very good position to try and overtake Verstappen now at this stage of the Grand Prix. Lap 16 is the lap now, so we're actually expected to come into the pit lane at the end of this lap. But not before we go for a move on Verstappen. We've gone down the inside of him at the hairpin. A little bit of an aggressive move for ourselves. And as a result, Bottas has moved up ahead of Verstappen as well. I felt like, you know what, Verstappen's got his elbows out this race. Why can I not do the same? So he did exactly that as Bottas now tries to go down our inside. And what a few corners that would have been for Valtteri Bottas if he'd have got ahead of us. But fortunately, we managed to hold P2. And it is now Vettel and ourselves leading the way in this Grand Prix. But we've both got to stop again. And we are going to make our pit stop at the end of this lap. Because Bottas is looking very, very racy behind us. And we don't want to be wasting any time battling cars that we don't really need to be. So we're now going to come into the pit lane on lap 16 for our final stop of the afternoon, just about slowing it down in time. And now we see our positions topple, as we'll possibly fall out of the top 10 for not the first time in this Grand Prix. Our teammate, Daniel Ricciardo, is also in the pit lane at the end of this lap, so it's a bit of a double stack from the Renault team. But I don't think Ricciardo got held up by us coming in. And now is feeling very, very slow as we release the limiter for the final time in this Grand Prix. We're going to be in P10. So we've got a lot of overtaking to do if we want to win this Grand Prix or even get on the podium here in Japan. So we have got an exciting final 10 laps in store. And there you can see Lance Stroll is the next car up the road. And he has got a Williams just in front of him, by the looks of it, of George Russell. So Russell yet to make his second stop. Same goes for Kevin Magnussen. And then we have got Lando Norris, who is in a very good position to score good points this afternoon. We're going to have to overtake him if we want to finish ahead of him this afternoon. The same goes for Charles Leclerc, who's put himself into position after starting in P15 in this Grand Prix. So fair play to him. Then he is chasing down Sergio Perez, who has put in a very, very good performance this afternoon under the radar. And then we have got Valtteri Bottas, who's actually back behind Max Verstappen, but he's going to go for a move now at the start of lap 18 on the Dutchman. And he's going to go right round the outside. Is he going to be able to get it stopped in time? I think he is. And it looked as if there, Verstappen tried to fight the move. And Verstappen has taken a bit of his front wing off. So what an eventful afternoon it's been for the Dutchman. Meanwhile, we come round the final corner to make up a few positions because George Russell is in the pit lane. The same goes for Kevin Magnussen. And the same goes for Sebastian Vettel, who we have jumped in the pit phase. Vettel actually had a 5-second stop-go penalty. I'm not sure where that came from. It was a collision that he had earlier on in the Grand Prix. I looked at on the race director. I couldn't quite pinpoint which incident it was, but regardless of that, Vettel is now 5 seconds behind us, so I can't complain at that whatsoever. And on lap 19, we are now right up behind Lance Stroll, who was a long way ahead of us when we came in for our second stop of the afternoon. But we are looking very, very quick on these soft tyres. And of course, this Renault car is a lot quicker than the racing point of Lance Stroll, which was pretty similar pace to us at the start of the season. But we've made such leaps and bounds with our development that we are hopefully going to breeze past Lance Stroll. Is it going to be down the inside of 130R? No, it isn't. We know how many incidents there have been there this afternoon. So we're going to stick behind for the meantime until the Casio triangle. It's a big right front lockup from ourselves. But are we going to get the move done? Yes, we are, sweeping right round the outside of Lance Stroll and up into P6 in this Grand Prix. And the next man, 3.8 seconds up the road, is Lando Norris in the McLaren car. He's also, like Lance Stroll, on the one-stop strategy. And I'd like to think that in the final 7 laps, we will more than have enough pace to get ahead of Norris. Sure enough, even well within the 7 laps, within 1 lap, we are within a second of Lando Norris. And so we go through the first corner and you can just see how much we're closing up on our fellow Brit. This snake section should really exaggerate how stable this Renault car is compared to the McLaren car. On the slower tyres, on the more worn tyres, we are going to go right round the outside of Lando Norris. We're going to have the inside line going into the Dunlop curve. Easy as you like. Up ahead of the McLaren driver into P5 in this Grand Prix. And now 9.3 seconds down the road is Sergio Perez. So we're on lap 21. We've got 6 laps left in this Grand Prix as we are riding on board now. And I'd like to think that we will also close up to Perez before the end of the Grand Prix. Meanwhile, we have got a battle between, Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. So this is for P2 in the Grand Prix. Now, Leclerc, of course, started in P15, is on the one-stop strategy like Verstappen, who started way up the order. But Leclerc goes right round him in the snake section, and Verstappen's lack of front wing end plate is really starting to cripple him now in this Grand Prix. So Charles Leclerc takes P2 of this Grand Prix. Who'd have thought that at the start? You know, it's pretty incredible that he's got ahead of his teammate, ahead of Max Verstappen. Meanwhile, we are trying to get ahead of Sergio Perez. We've closed the 9-second gap within 2.5, 3 laps, which is pretty insane. And yeah, we are right behind Sergio Perez now, and we should have DRS now at the start of lap 25 to get ahead of the Racing Point driver. And you can see in the distance there, that is Max Verstappen as we get a massive tank slapper at the final corner. Such a massive bump there that we've got to contend with. But we are now going to go right round the outside of Sergio Perez on the DRS. And easy as you like. We've run a little bit wide, actually. We made sure to leave plenty of room for Sergio Perez, but he was actually nowhere near us. I didn't expect the move to be quite that simple. We're now up into P4 and very, very close to a wounded Max Verstappen. And sure enough, by the end of lap 25, we are literally right on his tail. And he's got a poor exit off there. He can't really get any traction. And now on the run up to 130R, we are side by side with the Red Bull man. We know how savage he's been into 130R so far in this Grand Prix, so we are going to blink first. We're going to sit behind him, but we will have more than a good enough position to make a move on him into this final corner. But Verstappen brakes as late as he can. A big right front lockup for him, but we're still in a good position to get ahead of Verstappen. We've still got 2 laps left in the Grand Prix. There's no rush because Charles Leclerc is quite a way down the road, so this is going to be the final overtake we make in this Grand Prix. We're going to brake early, force Verstappen out wide, and he goes into us there almost. But still, we make the move stick up into P3. And brilliant, brilliant stuff there. Meanwhile, right up at the front, it's been a brilliant drive from Valtteri Bottas as he comes through the final corner to take 25 points and take the championship lead here in Japan. Brilliant stuff for him, and a wonderful comeback drive from Charles Leclerc from P15 to take P2. And we now come through the final corner on an afternoon where we started up in P2. Even so, we've lost 1 position, but what a Grand Prix it's been. What a race we've driven, and a well-deserved P3 for ourselves. The first time for a while we've been on the podium, but boy does that feel sweet. 15 points in the bag, but this was the man that nobody could beat this afternoon. It was Valtteri Bottas who takes back the championship lead in one that has ebbed and flowed pretty much every way so far. In P2 was Charles Leclerc, so fair play to him, getting some more points for Ferrari. Probably not the Ferrari driver you expected to be on the podium at the start of this Grand Prix. But my God, this series, it just keeps on producing brilliant race after brilliant race. I don't know where they keep coming from. You know, it's pretty incredible how many good races we've had. But now we are going to go on to the race standings. And you can see that, of course, Bottas ahead of Leclerc, ahead of ourselves, with Perez there in P4, ahead of Pierre Gasly, who slipped from 3rd down to 5th on what was a questionable strategy, I think. Obviously pitting under the safety car. And then we got Sebastian Vettel, who, of course, had that stop-go penalty. Ricciardo, our teammate, managed to recover to P7 somehow. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen, look at him, down in P12. He had a dreadful end to the Grand Prix. I'm not actually sure what happened to him after we overtook him, whether he came into the pits. Either way, he scored no points this afternoon. And the same goes for Lewis Hamilton, a man who was contending for the championship, but it looks as if his hopes of taking another Drivers' Championship have very much been dented, because you can see Valtteri Bottas has moved back ahead of Hamilton and into the joint lead of the championship with Sebastian Vettel. And actually, Vettel is top on virtue of race wins, I'd assume. But yeah, either way, Bottas has basically moved back on top of the standings. Ourselves, we're still in P5, 54 points back from the championship lead. And Renault, we're just not quite closing up quickly enough. And what a Grand Prix that was, guys. If you did enjoy it, do make sure to leave a like. Join me next time out for the United States Grand Prix, which I'm sure will be a cracker, as these always are. But I'll catch you guys in my next video. Do take care. Bye-bye.